Hello, I'm Gary Lyon and welcome to Access All Areas. The Gold Coast Suns are the talk of the town for all the wrong reasons, Damien Barrett. And Damo, I've got a lot of questions for you. I'm wondering why now is this such a massive story when you broke this 4 months ago on Channel 9? You put it to the respected powers that be. What response did you get at the time?
Pretty much, if I can encapsulate it, nothing to see here move on. The club claimed to be well aware of the Mad Monday situation, and the AFL was as well. And we put to them the Golf Day situation, where Carmichael Hunt has purchased a lot of cocaine prior to a 48-hour period with lots of teammates. And again, John Witheroff, even as recently as 2 weeks ago, the chairman of the club, said that he'd asked the players, and they said there was nothing to see here, and they didn't self-report, and therefore we're moving on as a club. So now we're launching an investigation into something they'd already known about and have known about for some time.
So let's be clear on this, without wanting to thump your chest. You broke this in March. You put Carmichael Hunt at these places that have now been reported now, 4 months down the track, and you got no response.
Got no response other than there's no drug problem at the Gold Coast Suns. In fact, the AFL went a step further and said that they're one of the better clubs at dealing with such matters. It's not the case. It wasn't the case. And this has now been, I'm prepared to say, covered up to a point, Gaz, in terms of what has been happening with the handling of this whole situation, and particularly Carmichael Hunt.
OK, so you went to the top, you went to the AFL, you went to the Gold Coast Suns, no problem here, nothing to see was the response. This is the quotes from Carmichael Hunt over the weekend. The cocaine was purchased for our personal use during the end-of-season celebrations. There was no financial gain for me at all. He went on to say, this is at a club there is no problem with drugs. I put the cocaine I bought on the dining room table. I was vaguely aware that most people there were using the cocaine during the nights, talking about Gold Coast Suns teammates. I noticed the next morning all the cocaine had gone. A week after the Mad Monday celebration, which you told us back in March, Damien, a group of Suns players went on an end-of-season golfing holiday to the Sunshine Coast. They were thirsty. They had 30 cases of beer and some pre-mixed vodka, UDL vodka, and of course, Hunt took some cocaine. It's extraordinary that we are now sit in the month of June or July, and now it becomes an issue.
Gary, there's an 8-ball of cocaine, to use the terminology, which was in a Queensland court when Hunt struck the deal to not have the serious charges laid against him. He then spent the next 48 hours with teammates, and the club put that to them at the time in March when we realised this, and they said there's no issue here.
John Witheroff also spoke to you. And said no issue, no problem.
In fact, got on the front foot and started beating his chest about how good the club was.
So how hard did they ask? How many questions did they ask? How hard did this club go? How hard have the AFL gone on this after you alerted to them to the problem in March?
When they have this investigation now and ask the players again, they need to ask themselves what questions they were asking at the time, and they need to ask themselves, did they actually just get the answers they wanted to get?
How hard did they want to dig? Maybe they didn't want to know the issue, Damo.
Correct.
Carmichael Hunt, of course, was the big signing, was the man who was going to put that club on the map and give them a presence up in the northern states. He blames the stress of switching clubs and football codes for going off the rails, Damo.
Probably trying to work out which particular football code to take the millions of dollars out, and that's another issue. I mean, the AFL money on this, not even just Gold Coast money, which is run by the AFL almost solely, at least $7 million of AFL money has gone to Carmichael Hunt in ambassadorial roles, inclusive in that figure. So, well done, good investment. What's the legacy he's left?
I often send you upstairs, Damo. You were up there in March, you didn't get the response. Maybe we're going to get the response now. That's amazing to think it's been 3 months in the making. Let's move on to some of the other issues from the weekend. Sam Mitchell finds himself in the middle of I say a furore, because our man Lav caught this with some magnificent work. Surely he hasn't got a case to answer here.
I would think zero. And while they're going to say they'll look at it and come out with a decision on it today, don't waste your time. On what grounds could you actually ping Sam Mitchell for doing anything on?
I think if you want to go back, there's been plenty of verballing about this. And players may not want to talk about it. I think even Chris Judd, the great Chris Judd, may have mentioned it in passing as well. So that is just the way of the world.
Race, religion, yes, I'm throwing depression into that.
Off limits.
Yeah, but look, what he did, no drama.
James Hird also, of course, the most difficult time in his whole football life, I would imagine, James Hird right now. He's had some issues. He's dealt with them all magnificently as a player. As a coach, they're sometimes out of your control. His response to the Sam Mitchell action was interesting.
Yeah, it's disappointing for our playing group that that's still happening. But perhaps the propaganda that's been around about what's happened at our club, you know, maybe people have believed it, and maybe it's not Sam's issue, it's all the propaganda. But I would hope that he'd apologise to our player and we'd move on.
What propaganda are you referring to?
I think all the media propaganda about what happened at our football club over a 2 or 3 year period. It's certainly damaged a lot of our people and our players.
James Hird using the word propaganda there, Gary. It's disappointing on the media's behalf that James Hird continually refers to propaganda, and the day he can look his players in the eyes and tell them exactly what they'll give it in that period will be the day we back off. Hey, Bomber Thompson, though, Gaz, has declared publicly now that he feels that a similar fate will happen to Hird that happened to him last year, and that he's being removed from the job as Essendon coach.
Well, it's always going to be hard, isn't it? It's a fair bit of power and weight in around the football world that don't want him in the job, and he knows that. And eventually it'll happen, I think. Yeah, I think it'll happen one day.
You're saying there's an inevitability about it now, Bomber?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think James knows that. I think he set out with all the right intentions to go out and try and win games and just focus on the footy. I think it's been too much for him as well.
That's what you need. That's all you need from a so-called ally, a man that coached the club in the year that you're away, telling everyone that you're going to get sacked.
Do you subscribe to that view?
Everyone gets sacked at some stage. Well, 98% of coaches get sacked at some stage, but that is the last thing James Hird needs right now.
Look, the on-field issues are part of this conversation too, aren't they, obviously? And when Joe Danaher just cannot convert goal chances the way he failed to do on the weekend, it's an issue that needs to be addressed pretty immediately. Yeah, it is. Our man Matthew Lloyd in charge here, and the fact of the matter is that just sticking one of the great goal kickers of all time at your club and giving him, well, now it's probably 6 months of coaching, ain't going to fix an inherent problem. That's going to take a lot of time. He'll keep working at him. He's had some wins. I've seen him kick a hell of a lot better at times. But, I mean, this is an issue, and it's going to take a little bit of time to get it sorted out. Carlisle's in that as well. That game's interesting for me. There was build-up. You talk about James Hird. Alistair Clarkson comes from a school, Damo, that was coached by John Northey. I'm pretty sure John Northey had Clarko. I certainly did. And this was Northey A1. I hate them more than anyone else. And Swooper did this he did it at training, Swooper. I thought it was out the window, that style of coaching. Well, anything he could grab his hands on, he'd use. And as Clarko said, with a wry grin, he said, well, it didn't really work because we were pathetic. Well, not pathetic, but we're very poor in the first 10 minutes of that game. But that's just a coaching mentality. It is. Tez, Buddy Franklin's incident on the weekend or Friday night with Edwards. Give me your take, please. Well, he's had a cop weeks, probably 2. I take this, though. I mean, people might have a go at Buddy about it, but Buddy's physicality in that forward 50 is often overlooked because of his brilliance in his goal kicking. Yep. His defensive pressure, his chasing, his tackling with intent. That's a bad error. That's a poor error when past the footy to make the head-high contact. He'll cop the 2 weeks. I'm having a word with Bud to say be careful, but I never want to see any of the physical nature of his game taken away. But just don't go the man. Well, that's a blue. That's a blue. Yeah. I mean, pick the footy up. Yeah. I mean, he's also twice as big as little Edwards as well. Did he also make an error too in failing to see teammate Sam Reid in a particular play on the weekend, Gaz? Because there were a few players missing teammates in seemingly better positions. Yeah, that had to come inside to hit Sam Reid. You know what the great sides do? And I say Hawthorn is a great side and Geelong were a great side. And they were selfless to a point of almost being too selfless, if you like. But what it does, it gives this side and everyone in it the tendency to want to run and create because you know you're going to get rewarded. Now, when you get ignored like this, and the next one we're going to see with Carlisle, what happens then is the players naturally go, well, why would I? Why am I going to run hard to position if you're not going to reward me? That had to go to Carlisle. We'll get another look at it down. That's the worst of the lot there, isn't it? Well, it is the worst of the lot. And, you know, you think of the Stevie Johnsons and all those blokes through that Geelong era, they just gave it instinctively, and Hawthorn players do it. I mean, Ruffy would rather give one than kick one sometimes, so that'll be a big comment, no doubt about it. Now, we're just past the halfway point of the season, Gaz. What have you got? I want you to put some hard questions to me, and I'm going to put some back to you, all right? But you need to start it. Let me kick it off with, will Jake Carlisle be at Essendon next year? No, he won't. Gaz, which club is in front of the Varco Lumumba-Clark trade? All right, I'm going to go with Collingwood at the moment, marginally ahead of Melbourne, and Mitch Clark's injury means that they're third. Fair call. Should Jack Zeeble be captain of North? Yes, he should, and will be as of next year. Should Gary Ablett, though, be captain of the Gold Coast?
No, he shouldn't, and that becomes more obvious by the day. Damien, grade the new MRP's performance this year out of 10.
You know I've got issues with the MRP, Gaz. I'm going to give him a 4.5, not quite a pass at this stage. Need to see a bit more work. Hey, who's been the most disappointing player of 2015?
I've got Nick Malcheski in the frame. This is a player that was taken on money out from a Sydney Premiership environment to try and impose some professionalism on there. Not only hasn't he been able to do that, hadn't been able to play good footy either. I know he's been injured, but he was poor early. Damo, who's more likely to become a senior coach again, Worsfold, Voss or Sanderson?
Voss. And Gaz, who's been the most disappointing team of 2015?
Port Adelaide. Damo, for me.
OK.
For you, who's more overexposed, Jonathan Brown or Jeff Edelston?
Edelston, there's so much more scope for Jonathan Brown, Gaz. He could actually edit the Herald Sun. He could help Terry McCrann write the finance column. And he could actually help Andrew Bolt do the Bolt report.
He's underutilised, Browning.
He is. Hey, the match day fan experience, has it been a success?
What are you talking about?
Was it been a success?
Well, therein lies your answer.
So you're saying no to that?
Well, what is it? Just put a couple of banners up and go and have a kick.
Get some lights.
Well, keep working at it. Not yet. Damo, is the International Rules Series a waste of time?
Yeah, it has been for a long time.
That's rubbish, Damien.
It's irrelevant. Just because you once coached the team there.
Rubbish.
To success, I might add.
Yeah.
Hey, is Richmond, is it still just a tease?
No.
Real deal.
You can't have those wins that they've had interstate and call them a tease. Finally, where will Charlie Dixon be playing next year?
Brisbane Lions.
Brisbane Lions. Hey, nice work by you, Damo. I've got a feeling today's going to be a very busy day for you. You might get ambushed on your walk out the door. Don't forget to keep clicking back to afl.com.au for all your up-to-the-minute news and premium video content right throughout the week. Thanks for watching Access All Areas. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.